If there's one thing the Italians know to a T, it's the art of making lasting impressions. Italy, in my experience, was a whirlwind of mammoth structures and grand facades that have enthralled millions of people throughout time. Transcending centuries of evolution and progress, its ancient creations still stand strong and are far more superior than even its modern neighbors. It was a wonder, from my constant state of staring way up and my mouth agape in awe, that I didn't sustain a stiff neck and an even stiffer jaw going around its cobbled streets. Rome, the capital city of Italia, our first stop. Specifically, we first visited the Vatican, a city-state of Rome and the headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church. As a child of two religious people, we excitedly toured St. Peter's Basilica and the Vatican museums. The Basilica, finished in 1626, was where the popes, old and new, presided many liturgies throughout the year. Inside, its high ceilings, massive walls, and spacious marbled floors were intricately designed and adorned with sculptures and paintings. Its huge dome, with its scrolled words and lush colors, opened like it was the pathway to heaven itself. Truly, there was no nook or cranny uncovered. More so, there were pieces so important not only to the church, but to humanity itself. Such are St. Peter's Baldachin by Bernini, and of course, La Pieta by Michelangelo, which I spent a lot of time admiring just by the sheer technique reflected on his sculpture. And we were just on the first leg of the tour. Passing by each room of the Vatican museums, it just became grander and grander. There were vast collections of art and archaeological artifacts collected by different popes throughout the centuries. These displays were featured through great rugs at least 2 people high, to finely made sculptures, to murals of different eras, all encased in cavernous and tastefully designed spaces. Finally, there's the Sistine Chapel, and if I thought those were grand before, then this chapel definitely took it up another level. Rebuilt in 1477, instigated by Pope Sixtus IV, and of which it has been named after, the small building houses the Vatican's greatest treasures. There were wall-to-ceiling frescoes by the great masters of the time, namely Botticelli, Perugino, Luca, and Michelangelo. Michelangelo, most importantly, spent 4 years painting the vault, which showcased 9 stories from the book of Genesis. The best-known image made by his hand is the creation of Adam, and is aptly located in the central part of the vault. From anyone's view, the frescoes looked like they were perfectly drawn in the sky, and its colossal range just made it all the more cosmic. Outside the Vatican's rich interiors, another thing to behold was St. Peter's Square. Completed in 1667, it is bordered by 2 symmetrical semicircular colonnades designed by Bernini. Above the columns are 140 sculptures of saints. In the middle stands the obelisk, which is rumored to have certain relics of Jesus Christ. Surely, standing in the vast square, after my grand tour of the Vatican, I've never felt so small and fragile in the face of its enormity. Up to now, 8 years later, I've never beheld such grandeur of that scale. Outside of the city-state, Rome has more to offer. An ancient wonder with a long history, remnants of its old glory are scattered around the city. One of the places I was lucky enough to graze upon was the Colosseum. Built in the 1st century by Flavian emperors, the 4-story amphitheater was used to house games and shows, gladiator combats, and other public entertainment. It could seat 50,000 spectators, and its intricate architectural design doesn't just extend on its exterior, but more so on its internal foundations. Truly, from the outside, I had wondered what it felt like to have been born in a time where the Colosseum was in active use. I bet it would have been an experience unlike any other. Close to the Colosseum stands the Arch of Constantine. Erected in 315 CE, it commemorates the battle won by Roman Emperor Constantine against the tyrant Maxentius. The white marbled monument, from then until now, signifies and reminds us of Roman military victories and good governance. Beyond that, we then walked to the Palatine Hill, where we got the view of Rome's old ruins, from prehistoric to palatial remains. We spotted the House of Augustus, Circus Maximus, a chariot racetrack, the Temple of Apollo, and many others. Leaving the ruins, we visited the Roman Pantheon, which is also the best preserved monument in ancient Rome. Used as a pagan temple and then a Christian church, it was just as beautiful as one of the Vatican's many rooms, and this made it all the more special since it was built almost 2,000 years ago. Finally, after a 2-day trip around the city, my family and I retired by the Fontana di Trevi, one of the biggest fountains in the world. The Baroque masterpiece designed by Nicola Salvi sits on the oldest water source of the city. The clear waters were topped with a sculpture of the Greek sea god Oceanus, being pulled by 2 seahorses, symbolizing the changing moods of the ocean. It was another sight to behold. Truly, there was no crevice in Rome that wasn't a feast for the eyes and one's senses. I just wished I could have stayed longer. With that in mind, I threw a coin in the fountain in hopes of roaming the ancient city again. Florence, the center of medieval European trade and finance. This was also our second, albeit brief, stop. We first went to the 14th century Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore. The church was built in beiges and whites and covered in red-colored roofs. Inside, the same color motifs were patterned on the floors and walls. The biggest artwork in the church is Vasari's fresco entitled The Last Judgment, painted in the dome. We didn't really tour the ins and outs of the massive cathedral, but instead opted to climb the top of the cupola. Climbing over 400 steps, we saw up close Vasari's fresco, but more so once at the top, the panoramic view of Florence. The city itself was uniformed in colors of white and red, backdropped by nature's greens, blues, and yellows. It was simply breathtaking. After that, we visited Ponte Vecchio, Florence's Bridge of Gold. Built in the 1300s, it was now teeming with shops, jewelers, and the like. Most notably, they sell gold jewelry, which was popularized by the Medicis. Thus, the value of the gold was not in it per se, but where one bought it, in this case, by the Ponte Vecchio. Standing on the bridge, looking at the wares, and then walking around Florence's many streets, its subtle elegance was what made it distinct from Italy's many cities. Venice, the floating city, our last stop. Taking a ferry along the Grand Canal and being welcomed by the sight that is Venice, I could really say that it's one of the most unique and unforgettable views to see. Truth be told, we didn't really do much in Venice, except admire its extraordinary facade. It was mind-boggling to me to think how a city could possibly grow and thrive the way Venice has. Making it habitable, early settlers had to drain some areas, dig canals, and manually line water-resistant wood as foundations of the city. From there, it slowly grew into the cosmopolitan it was, where canals replaced roads and water transportation trumped our usual vehicles. Once I got over the sheer genius behind its engineering, its romantic beauty was what arrested me. On either side of the Grand Canal were churches, palaces, galleries, hotels, and other buildings styled in the Romanesque, Gothic, and Renaissance. Despite being close to the waters, these structures didn't shy away from their grandness and size. They also came in different colors, some light and some dark. Some were much adorned with gods and angels, while others were more patterned and muted. There were castles with spiraling staircases and churches with tall, imposing domes. Upon closer inspection, while strolling on the sidewalks, there were shops everywhere, of clothing, of random bits and bobs, and of course, masks. Also dotting its unusual facade were bridges connecting one side of the city to the other. The most notable one being the oldest bridge in town, the Ponte de Rialto. Designed by Antonio da Ponte, the white stone bridge is known for its massive arch that crosses the Grand Canal, which for its time was a feat to achieve. It was while crossing that infamous bridge, festooned with tourists, while gazing at the enchanting city of Venice, that I had thought that Venice was really a masterpiece of its own. There was never a dull moment in Italy. Wherever we went, wherever I looked, there was always something to be amazed about or to be gobsmacked at. From Rome to Florence to Venice, the full extent of their grandiose magnificence is indefinable. Even writing this, I found it really hard to reflect and try to compress its grandeur into simple words. But if I could attempt to sum it up in a statement, exploring Italia, especially its ancient cities, is akin to walking as a mere mortal into the kingdom of the gods. If you guys enjoyed that, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, comment down below your favorite memory of this place, book that subscribe button, and turn on notifications. Thank you so much for watching, and see you guys till our next adventure. Bye!